How's everyone doing? Today I have a Blu-ray collection update with 6 pickups, and if you've seen any of these movies, definitely let me know what you think of them. And first up is the Arrow Video US release for Evil Ed. This is the special Ed-etion, and this is a 3-disc set, including the new version, which has some extra scenes in here, and the original cut, which is 93 minutes, tons of special features in here. A Lost in Brainland, never before seen, extended 3-hour making of documentary. I like the intro right here, which I thought was super funny. They were kind of just like talking over each other, and then some other special features where they show a pantry closet somewhere in Sweden where they go through all the film reels and editing notes, and they go through the editing process to make this special Ed-etion and how long they've been working on it. And this movie is just cheesy, sleazy, B-movie fun. I will say the pacing is a little bit off, and especially the third act, the pacing is just kind of dreadful. It drags at points. I think the original cut works better for the film, and this movie is completely dubbed by all the characters except for one, the actress who played Mel. So everybody else had it dubbed for English, and it was probably one of the best dub jobs that I've actually heard. It goes so in sync with the mouth movement, so that worked really well. And obviously Evil Ed is a play on Evil Dead, the title, and it's clearly influenced by Evil Dead, Reanimator, Peter Jackson, especially for Evil Dead. There's certain scenes in here, you know, the character says groovy, or that shaky cam, that following through kind of like the woods kind of action. A lot of scenes are very reminiscent of Evil Dead. And I do like that they have a lot of horror homages in here with horror posters all over the place. And it's basically about this character who's an editor, and he's, you know, cutting violent parts of the film out, and he has to work on these horror films, this horror franchise called Loose Limbs, and he really doesn't want to do it because it's just so much, you know, gore and violence. He's talking about a scene where this woman is raped by a beaver, and then I think she gets her head shot off or something like that. And there's supposedly there was a shot of that in the film that was actually edited out of the actual movie Evil Ed. So that gives you an idea of the crazy stuff he has to see and edit out, and he's becoming traumatized by all the violence. And I think it's kind of a parody on the notion that violent movies and, you know, heavy metal, rap music, video games and stuff like that make people do violent things, especially kids. So I think it's kind of, you know, poking fun at that, but at the same time he's becoming, you know, traumatized by all the violence, and he starts descending into chaos and becoming super violent, you know, killing people, chopping people's heads off, stuff like that. So it's just cheesy horror comedy. This is from Sweden. Fantastic release. If you're a fan of the film, you will love this. And I absolutely love the newly commissioned artwork on there. That is awesome. Look at that. Some really cool effects, especially some of the creature effects, and I like the gore effect at the end of the movie. That one scene, really awesome. Those crazy Swedes made a cheesy, sleazy, entertaining horror comedy movie here with Evil Ed. And again, the special Ed-etion cut is 99 minutes, while the original cut is 93 minutes, so that's 6 minutes of additional footage. Personally, I think the original cut works a little bit better. It's just a little bit more fluid, doesn't have the pacing issues that I think the special Ed-etion has, but it looks and sounds great here with the Arrow Video US release. So this is by far the definitive edition of Evil Ed, and I like the unique disc artwork. There's the first disc, there's the creature from the fridge, and there's the third disc right there. 2 Blu-rays and a DVD. And then here is the old school artwork that I always remember seeing. I even like how they have it on the spine too. They got the little picture right there. So very cool. And then there's the creature from the inside the fridge, which is hilarious. I love that scene. And again, Arrow Video, one of the best companies out there releasing today. There's the fridge scene again. You've got the great booklet in here. There's behind the scenes photos, tons of information. And again, you've got the great packaging for collectors, the clear case, newly commissioned artwork, reversible artwork, and then the transfers, the special features, just tons of special features. They do just a phenomenal job. It's a complete package when you get anything from Arrow Video, and can't wait to see what they release next. Next up is Fist Fight. I wasn't expecting to like this movie as much as I did. I thought it was going to be crude humor, ridiculous, over-the-top humor, and that's what it is. There's a horse on meth running through the halls at a couple points in this movie, and it's essentially an adult version of 3 O'Clock High. It's two teachers fighting, and it's the final day of school. Ice Cube is kind of like a no-nonsense teacher, tough guy teacher, and Charlie Day right here plays kind of like a, you know, the weak teacher. People kind of like walk all over him, take advantage of him. And Jillian Bell is really funny here too. I think she plays that same role in like everything she's in. Love her in Workaholics. Tracy Morgan plays the typical character he always plays as well. I'm not a big fan personally. But I love how Charlie Day and Ice Cube play off each other. That works really well. And you also have some other good supporting cast members in here. Dennis Haysbert, who was underutilized. Christina Hendricks, which was crazy character. Dean Norris and a few other recognizable people. But it's essentially straightforward. Two teachers gonna fight at the end of the school day, and it's leading up to that, all the tension, and he keeps trying to do certain things to get out of the fight. He doesn't want to fight at all. He thinks he's going to get his butt kicked by Ice Cube. And I love the actual fight. That was a lot of fun. And while it is raunchy, dirty, ridiculous, over-the-top comedy, I thought it actually worked. And great cast chemistry here. That's something that definitely pushed this film. So they're in this school, and the kids are just out of control. They're doing senior pranks. So that's something that drives up the tension too. All kinds of crazy things are happening, ridiculous scenarios. This is directed by Richie Keene, who's done a lot of TV work. In fact, he's worked with Charlie Day on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is a hilarious show. So they obviously had great chemistry. And this was much better than I was expecting it to be. Again, typically those kind of comedies that they keep putting out, super raunchy, super ridiculous, super over the top, I'm not a big fan of. But this one I did enjoy. Again, it's an adult version of 3 O'Clock High. And this is released from Warner Brothers. I wish they had a little bit more special features. Only has deleted scenes right there. So that would have been something I would have liked a little bit more. But there are good bloopers towards the end through the credits. So that was nice. And next up is a Horror Pack Limited Edition Blu-ray for Chopping Block. Now, every Horror Pack Limited Edition Blu-ray that I've seen, I have not been a fan of. They're typically low budget, but I do like the fact that they have these Horror Pack exclusives where you can only get them through Horror Pack on Blu-ray, or they're signed, or, you know, extra special features, or whatever the case may be. I like the concept for it. I like the concept in general of Horror Pack, getting a subscription-based service, getting Blu-rays or DVDs of horror movies each month. You don't know what they're going to be. They give you little hints and clues sometimes. So a great service, subscription service right there. But this movie was pretty bad. There was aspects that I really did enjoy. I like the lead actress in here. I thought she was really good, and the lead actor. They really shined, and they bounced off each other really well. The actress, I think her nickname was Books. She was good, but it's super low budget. It's super straightforward. The pacing is hit or miss. Some of the acting is terrible, especially from the one guy, Richie. Oh, he was the worst out of the bunch. But it's basically about 5 members who work for this company, and they all get fired, and they come up with this idea to kidnap the boss's daughter. And they kidnap her, but they find out that she's a final girl, and there's a serial killer chasing her down, and who will stop at nothing to get to her, including going through them. So it's, again, super straightforward, super low budget. It just didn't work. It had a couple laughs here and there. Those 2 actors that I mentioned were really the best parts of the movie. The rest of the acting was really shaky. And again, there's nothing here that stands out. It is self-aware, I'll give it that. It seemed like they had fun making the movie. It just wasn't as fun watching the movie. So yeah, straightforward, low budget, bad pacing, some good comedic parts here and there, but they could have done so much more with it. Nothing special, below average, unfortunately. Somehow, if you are a fan of the movie, there are a good amount of special features on there. So there's that. And this is from Retro Rad Productions. And this is the 6th in the Horror Pack Limited Edition Blu-rays. And next up from Lionsgate is The Assignment. This might be one of the worst movies I've seen all year. This was tedious to sit through. Not much worked about this film. Michelle Rodriguez is a hitman, and she wakes up one day, and she's had gender reassignment surgery thanks to Sigourney Weaver, who's out for vengeance. Sigourney Weaver's talents were completely wasted in this movie, and part of the thing that doesn't work about this movie is the fact that she has dialogue scenes that go on way too long. There's no need to go that in depth for it. It really kind of takes you out of the scene. But she was the best part of the movie. She's this surgeon who's really kind of full of herself, very narcissistic, and she's trying to get vengeance out against Michelle Rodriguez's character, who is a guy who's a hitman. And Sigourney Weaver does the gender reassignment surgery to take the vengeance out. And so Frank, the hitman, wakes up and becomes a girl. And there's no way that you believe Michelle Rodriguez is a guy in this movie. The way that she walks, all the different things like that, it does not feel realistic. There's like a fake penis that you see, the facial hair, it is laughable. It is terrible, it is ridiculous. You have to suspend disbelief in general for most movies, but this one you just can't get over the fact. It looks so bad, it's not believable. There's some decent shootout scenes, I guess. Even some of that really didn't work well. So yeah, it's basically Michelle Rodriguez trying to get back at Sigourney Weaver for, you know, making him her. You also have Tony Shalhoub and Anthony LaPaglia who are good in their roles, but again, their talents are wasted on a film like this. I could not recommend this. Just everything about this movie was cringeworthy. And the assignment is told through flashbacks, which also don't work. There's certain scenes in here that are too dialogue heavy, and again, that's something that takes you out of it. And a lot of the scenes are just people talking to one another, or Frank Kitchen right there, which is a terrible name, by the way, talking to the camera, explaining what happened. And again, none of it works. The narration, the voice that Michelle Rodriguez does as Frank Kitchen, awful. Again, the look, everything, just dreadful. This is directed by Walter Hill, who also directed the recent movie Bullet to the Head, which I also wasn't a fan of, but he's done some great stuff in the past. 48 Hours, Another 48 Hours, Brewster's Millions, which I love. He's done some good stuff, but he just hasn't done a lot of good stuff recently. So yeah, this one right here, the concept was ridiculous. Nothing really worked on any level. The action sequences weren't that good. The acting from Michelle Rodriguez was rough. It was unbelievable, her being a man, just the shootout sequences, all of that. Sigourney Weaver, again, toned down the dialogue. So ridiculous. And the assignment seems like it's just trying to capitalize off of all the trans stuff going on in the news. Transgender, like Bruce Jenner to Caitlyn Jenner, and everything like that. There's all kinds of TV shows and specials going on now. I recently saw one on ESPN where there was a high school track student who was female and then she turned to male. So there's a lot of that going on, and I feel like that's just the main reason this was out there. It capitalized off that and tried to turn it at least into an action piece, which again doesn't work here, especially as Michelle Rodriguez in the lead role and playing a man and then going to the woman. Yeah, it definitely didn't work on any level. And Walter Hill, you're better than that. So is Sigourney Weaver, Tony Shalhoub, Anthony LaPaglia. Their talents deserve to be in better movies than this. And you also see Michelle Rodriguez naked. You get full frontal nudity from her as a man and a woman. And obviously the title of the assignment is a play on words, as a hit assignment to take somebody out, and then also gender reassignment. A transgender hitman. This might be the first, I'm not sure, but it definitely doesn't work. Maybe there'll be better ones in the future. Maybe this is a start. And when Michelle Rodriguez is Frank Kitchen, the guy with the facial hair and the pulled back ponytail and the voice and the walk, it's just so bad that it becomes an unintentional comedy. And there is a fitting twist at the end of the movie, but by that point the viewer's interest had long been lost. But if for some reason you are a fan of The Assignment, this is a good release from Lionsgate, so you'll be pleased with the picture and audio quality. And there is a sole bonus feature, Filmmaking Portraits. Next up is Child of God. This is from Welgo USA. This is directed by James Franco, and it's based on the 1973 Cormac McCarthy novel. Child of God, and stars Scott Hayes and Tim Blake Nelson, and James Franco has a small role towards the end of the movie. There's very little positive things I can say about this movie. Scott Hayes in the lead did a fantastic job acting-wise, powerful performance. You definitely believe he is that character of Lester Ballard, who is this clearly learning disabled person who might also be mentally ill, mentally unstable. Can you be both? I'm not sure. But if so, this was definitely a case for it. He's basically living in the woods after he feels like he's kicked out of his family's land, and he gets blamed for certain things that he didn't do, but he quickly descends into madness. There's some really gross scenes. There's a scene of him pooping. You see poop coming out of the butt, and him wiping his butt with a stick. You see him watching a couple having sex in a car, and you see like splooge hitting the car from him watching and spanking it. And then there's some really surprisingly caught me off guard scenes towards the end where you find out he becomes psychotic and starts killing people and hides in this cave. And the end was actually pretty interesting. That was one of the better parts of the movie. Some good cinematography here as well. But besides that, it was like watching paint dry on an outhouse. Tedious to sit through. Again, he's tons of snot. Some of the most snot scenes I've ever seen with him. A lot of times you can't understand what he's saying. He has like a speech impediment, and then there's kind of like a southern drawl going along too, and it just makes it even worse to sit through. He's kind of like mumbling. You don't know exactly what he's saying. Again, he's spitting, snot drooling down. He's just living in the woods in a shack, and then at one point the shack burns down. He's hiding in a cave. He's just walking through the woods. He's just acting crazy. I mean, he does things that are just irrational. There's really no reason I could give to want to watch this movie. Again, good acting performance, decent cinematography. The end scene was kind of good, but you know, I'm kind of pushing to come up with positive things to say. It's raw, it's tragic. I could not really recommend this one. There's really just sitting through this, I'm like, why was this even made? Why was this greenlit? One of the blurbs on here makes No Country for Old Men seem like lightweight. That is like blasphemous. There should be no comparison to a classic like No Country for Old Men. It's like comparing gold to poop, and there's poop in here. Yeah, some of the scenes just seemed unnecessary and seemed just added for shock value. Towards the end, it almost delves into the horror range. But yeah, just rough to sit through. I could not recommend this one. And no special features, and it doesn't deserve any. And next up is Motivational Growth. This is kind of a cheesy horror comedy. It reminds me a lot of Frank Henenlotter's Brain Damage. This guy who just basically does nothing all day, sits inside of his apartment, watching TV, decides to kill himself, and it's kind of a botched attempt, and he wakes up and he sees this mold right here, talking mold, telling him to do certain things, and the mold is voiced by Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator. And I do like basically everybody in here acting wise except for the lead. I did not like him, but everybody else played their parts very well. Jeffrey Combs did a great job voice acting wise here, and I really like all the animatronics that went into the talking mold. There's like 3 different people controlling different parts of the mold, and some of the special features right there, if you are a fan, very in depth. They talk about all that went into making this mold, and definitely a lot did, and that was probably one of the best parts of the movie, is the mold itself, which was pretty funny at times. But it's basically the mold telling him to do certain things, and at first it seems like it's making his life better, and then he realizes it's not making his life better, and he decides to not do what the mold tells him and tries to get rid of the mold, and that doesn't turn out too well, and it's kind of formulaic. It doesn't really hit the mark horror-wise, doesn't really hit the mark comedy-wise. Again, you have to suspend disbelief with movies, but again, there's so many scenes and scenarios here where you're like, that just doesn't seem realistic at all. And you don't really believe the characters would do the things that they're doing, and there's certain huge red flags, like if that were to happen, you know, the characters wouldn't be doing what they are. So it doesn't work here. Again, the actors, besides the lead, did decently well with what they had to work with, and the mold itself was pretty cool. They could have done so much better with this concept if it was in more apt hands, I think. And again, a better lead actor would have helped too. But if you're a fan of the film, this is a good release right here. It has a bunch of special features. It's from Parade Deck Films, and I believe it's distributed from MVD Visual here in the US. There's definitely some really gross scenes here, which I think some people will appreciate. I think some people will enjoy the fact that it is reminiscent of kind of like Frank Henenlotter's Brain Damage and other movies kind of like that, where it's, you know, sleazy, greasy, slimy, cheesy, B-movie kind of stuff. But for me, it just wasn't as fun as Brain Damage and other movies of its ilk. It just misses the mark. Definitely a lot of gross out scenes in here for sure, especially the appearance of the lead character. Again, he's got pus and pimples and like sores all over himself from just, you know, sitting around on the couch watching TV all the time. And again, the mold itself and some of the things that happen with certain characters. I'd like to see Jeffrey Combs do more voice acting, and the people who did the animatronics right here for the mold, they did a great job. They should definitely do more work. Again, I think it would have done better in better hands, essentially. So there you go. There are my 6 Blu-ray pickups. If you've seen any of the movies, definitely let me know what you think of them, and leave me a comment or video response down below. Hope everyone's doing well. Take care.